Ruthie. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy to see you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me. What a treat.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure. And I have like this notebook here where I write down all my ideas and all the people that I want to talk to. And you have been in my notebook.
I'm
for
so
everything.
honored.
Yes.
You. Thank you.
Yeah.
What a
Well,
treat.
of course. Well, for those people who are tuning in and who are watching this on our IGTV later, we have the privilege of talking to incredible author and public speaker, chronic pain advocate. I don't know if you use that title, but I definitely would use that title to describe you because you share your story with chronic pain so vulnerably and so beautifully. And yeah, Ruthie Lindsey, she is here with us today, and I want all of you to message us in the comments, give us questions if you have them, and definitely check out Ruthie's Instagram and all of her work over on her page, which will be tagged in our IGTV caption if you haven't already checked her out. So I'm so pumped. I just need to make sure I say all of that.
Oh my gosh, you're awesome. You're perfect.
Oh my God. Well, I'm so excited. And for those of you who are joining from Ruthie's page, I'm Nitika Chopra, and I'm the founder of Chroniconvo. And I had Ruthie on my podcast back, I guess like a couple months ago already now. It was the beginning of the pandemic.
Very beginning. We were like, what is happening?
I feel like we were like maybe in a little bit of denial. Like,
yeah,
it'll be fine. Yeah.
Who knew? We were like, what's the world?
Oh.
What is the world?
It's been so much. So for those people who, might not know about you or who might not have heard of from you in a while, even on your page and stuff, who might be tuning in, can you just tell us a little bit about what has you be a part of the Chroniconvo community? So what is it about your story that has you connect to the chronic illness conversation and the chronic pain conversation?
Yeah, well, it's something that, has just resonated very deeply with me. I lived in my bed for 7 years from debilitating chronic pain from breaking my neck, and then years later the wire from the fusion breaking and piercing my brainstem. But it took them like 5 years to discover that, and just really, going through so much and all that entails. Like that's just, there's so much more to it, and it's so nuanced, and it's not this black and white thing. And that affects, like, we're these holistic beings. So our physical experience, totally affects our mental experience, which totally affects our spiritual experience, which totally affects, it affects everything, because we are not these, we are these holistic beings. And so there was just, it was a very, very traumatic time. And I dealt with about 15 years of just really debilitating pain before I learned a lot of trauma release techniques to help me releasing a lot of it. But, I still have pain. It's nothing like what it was. Nothing. It's not even comparable, but it's still very much a part of my life. But it's not a defining part of my life anymore at all. But it's given me a whole new lens to see the world. I feel like my pain and my trauma and my loss and all of those things ended up being the things that ultimately called me home to myself. Like, I think if my life had turned out the way that I had planned and expected, which, how funny, we're so cute. We think we know. And because it didn't, it took me on such, I had nervous breakdowns, mental trauma, of course, physical trauma. It took me on such a journey to ultimately come home to myself. And if my life had turned out the other way, I would probably be a pretty shallow, if everything had just turned out great, I wouldn't have done the really deep healing work that I've had the privilege of getting to do. And I'm so honored by that. It's like, it ended up being as painful and traumatic as it was. It ended up being the invitation for me to come home to myself and do the most loving, tender, precious, beautiful, ongoing. This will be going on until I'm back in the in-between. Like, this is not a, like, you arrive and everything's great, you know? But I can honestly hold myself really tenderly and gently now in my body and places. Like, actually, I'm in this embodiment course right now, and they asked us to do a 30-minute massage your body. And this morning I did it, and I set the alarm. I'm like, that is so freaking long. 30 minutes. Hello.
30 minutes.
I literally, after I was bawling, crying. I went to every body part, and I was just thanking her. Like, I thought my body was broken and hated me for so long. And I was just telling her, like, first, I'm so sorry that I abandoned you. You've never abandoned me. You've just loved me and held me. And when I got to my neck, I was almost wailing and thanking her, and just, she's so, like, we're so strong and we're so brave. And to think that we could go through such horrific stuff and then still be here and show up. Like, Earth School's the hardest freaking thing ever. You are so brave. I am so brave. We are so brave. And I don't know, it's just my whole lens on all of it has shifted. And I'm telling you, I know myself, I would not be doing this work if I had no pain, if I had no loss, if I had had no trauma. I know that to be true of myself.
Totally. Oh my God, I love that so much. And I see so many comments coming in of people saying that they resonate with what you're saying so much, and that coming home to yourself is really resonating, and that they're reading your book and it really changed them. So I love to see all of that. So keep those comments coming in. But I really, really resonate with that. And I think there are two things that are coming out for me. One, in what you said, was just this coming home to yourself. There's something about the way that I know you and I talk about this process that is not spiritually bypassing. And I think that that is so important to talk about, because I know that that's what you believe in your work, and to not bypass things and to go in. And that is definitely what we're passionate about at Chronicon. Like, we created the space so that you could just be seen and be the truth. But what you're talking about at the same time is very loving. And it's not like being in the pain in a way that's violent or cruel or any of that. Right. So what do you think of that part of things? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you have that, but also not have it be spiritual bypassing? Does that make sense?
100%. I think it's also, can be termed as like toxic positivity. If you're just pretending like everything's great. Listen, I had to be in my trauma and in my pain for a good long time. I mean, again, 7 years in my bed. I did not just arrive at that place. And I also don't think we ever just arrive, we're always, healing is never linear. We are always on the journey. And I think you cannot heal something that we're not allowing ourselves to feel. And so for me, like we talked about on the podcast, going back into my story and writing my book ended up being such a massive part of this healing journey. And when I say it was traumatic, it was so deeply painful because I had just pushed it down. It doesn't go away. I had just pushed it down, and then it comes out sideways in all these different ways. They say when our responses to things are hysterical, they're always historical, because we didn't allow ourselves to actually process them. And they get lodged in our body, and they can manifest as sickness and dis-ease, right? And that's not saying that it's not real. It's so real. Yeah. It is so valid, and it is so viscerally real. But in the same breath, it's this both and. The more that I allowed myself to go in and actually experience and feel the traumatic experiences, and gave myself space through trauma release, through EMDR, through nonlinear dance, through therapy, through breath work. I try all the things. And this has been a long process. It's
acupuncture, Ayurveda, cupping, herbs,
all the fucking things.
All the stuff.
But the more I did this trauma release, our brains are so brilliant. And because they don't know time, we talked about this a little bit, like That's why when we're triggered, you feel like you're right back in your trauma. Like if you have PTSD and if you had a bad accident and you have physical pain from it, you can get so triggered because it's lodged, right? But when you go back in and do this healing work, that's so loving and we're so deserving of. We are so deserving of. It's not about what's wrong with us. It's what's so freaking right with us. It's about what's right with us. And the more we do that, a brain is allowed to process and create new neural pathways. So my wreck doesn't hold the weight and the traumatic experience for me. I can drive right past that spot and just say thank you now. That's from doing trauma work and release work. And I've been on this journey for a really long time, and wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. You can't rush your healing. You cannot. But I do believe that like we can do incredible loving healing work on ourselves. And now it's so interesting because like my pain I was so parked there for a long time. It's all I could think of because it was so consuming. It was so debilitating. And I was in so much pain and so much trauma and so much emotional trauma too, because there was a ton of emotional pain. And it's all connected, right? And now it doesn't hold the weight. It's still a part of me, and it's transformed me in so many ways. And it's given me these new eyes, like this new lens to see humans and to see the world and to see, because like we can't separate pain from joy. Like the deeper my favorite quote is, the deeper sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. But you have to allow yourself to feel it, and we're always trying to avoid it and numb it. I took every narcotic under this. I was on the highest level of fentanyl patch, morphine, hydrocodone, everything under the sun. And the more that I allowed myself to actually feel my pain in a safe space, in a safe environment, the more I was giving myself the gift of feeling joy and beauty and love and light. You cannot have one without the other, right? And so that journey, like and I'm not talking about happiness, I'm talking about joy.
Yeah.
And that's different. And my joy, like, it's visceral, right? And does that mean I don't still get so sad and don't feel anger and pain? Of course. And I allow myself to feel those. I don't try to suppress them anymore, which I did and that makes you sick. I'm like, no. That's not my journey. I feel angry about what's happening for Black people in this country. I feel angry about the patriarchy because it's fucked up. I feel angry. Like, that's real. And I allow myself, this is not toxic positivity that we're talking about here, you know?
Yeah. And someone was asking in the comments, or mentioned in the comments, like they don't know what to do with their emotions. So when we say that we're feeling all of these things and that we're going into all of this emotion, one thing I do want to just say is that Ruthie and I are not professional healers or practitioners. We're both patients. We're both sharing our patient story. And, hoping that it inspires you to maybe find someone who you can work with that is supportive for you.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's a really interesting question or, thing to bring up, because it does sound a lot like, okay, everyone's saying for us to like face it, but like, what does that look like? So you mentioned all of these different things, like you went to all these different healers, you sat with it. Is it just literally that and then going through it over time?
I'll tell you what's been the most impactful for me personally. Writing. Because when you give yourself space to have stream of consciousness writing, you don't have to pay for like that is something that every human it gives you when you give that gift to yourself, you're allowing your brain and your body to process things. Like that is such a beautiful gift to give yourself. And does it mean that it's easy? No, it's so hard. I hate writing. It's painful.
I know, it's kind of a chore.
It is. Yeah. And it's also the most loving thing. I think for me, writing, meditation, and these are things that I'm naming things that are free. that are accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
Meditation, mindfulness, getting in the present moment, because my mind, oh my God, it just spins. I am future tripping about what am I going to do if my body hurts this, if it's like this now, and all the things that I did wrong and that were done wrong to me in the past. Like my brain, holy hell, tells me so many stories. And so it's crazy, this monkey brain. And so the practice of getting present in my body, because, you know, when we're traumatized and we have pain, we disembody. And that's a very loving thing to do to survive, right? And it serves us until it doesn't. And so giving myself space to slowly and tenderly, I do all kinds of embodiment practices, like feel feel inside of you. There are places that work so beautifully, right? There are places, focus on the parts of your body that do not hurt. And feel, what do you feel there? And what emotion do you feel there? And that is so loving, and it's so tender, and it's so compassionate, and you're so deserving of that. And I think anything that gets us back into the present moment, into the body, for me, that's writing, embodiment, mindfulness practices, and it's being in Mother Nature. And I try to be in Mother Nature. She is like my medicine and my healer, and teaches me pretty much everything I could ever need to learn. Like that, those three things that everyone has access to, and they're free. They're free. Those things have been so fundamental. Those are things I do every single day. They're part of my daily ritual, my daily practice. Even if it's like yesterday, I walked in the rain and it was beautiful. And it's just, it's so grounding, and it brings me back into the present moment. And those are just great beginning steps. If you're able to find a therapist, again, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what's so right with you. But everyone doesn't have access to that, and I know that, you know. So those three things that I listed are beautiful, beautiful places to start.
Amazing places to start. And thank you for that. And what I'm also hearing in what you're saying too is just I can resonate with a lot of what you're saying, because I feel like even in the times when my arthritis was so bad and I couldn't move and I couldn't get out of bed, like in all those years that you were also in bed, there was a lot of heaviness, a lot of sorrow, a lot of trauma, but then there was that ability to say, okay, today I'm just gonna write today, if that's like the only thing. And I agree, writing, especially for someone who's immobile and unable to move, or even just during the pandemic, we don't have as many choices. I know people are really anxious for being around people if they're immune compromised, like all of those layers, right? That's such a beautiful thing. And I also love just like all the different ways that we can access that. I also find, not to like plug your book, but I also do find listening to memoirs has been one of the things that has been so healing for me, because I listen to books mostly, so I feel like I'm sitting there, I'm in my apartment, or I'm cooking, or I'm doing things, but I kind of feel like someone's with me. And also listening to a story that's like really inspiring, where someone got through something really hard, it is incredibly nourishing for me. So I think those are all really, really great. And someone else also asked about compassion, and like, how do we have that compassion for our bodies? So you mentioned this massage, which sounds so amazing. So like, if someone's sitting here watching this video right now and they're really struggling with their body, what do they do next if they want to have more compassion?
Yes, I love that question, and I've so been there. And I thought my body was broken. I thought my body hated me. I called my body an it. I'd say that it was against me and hated me. I thought, you know, it had failed me. That's what I thought, and that's what I spoke about constantly. And our bodies hear us, right? And
I lost you for a second there.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, I heard you say you thought your body was broken.
And our bodies, you know, they hear us. And when we speak these horrible, ugly things, I think it starts off just as a practice. And when I tell you, when I first started this practice, it is a practice, just like anything else. You're not going to walk outside right now and be an amazing golfer. You just aren't.
Yeah.
You're not. I'm learning how to bake bread. Is it going to be great at the beginning? No. I don't know what the food I'm doing. It takes practice. And for me, speaking lovingly and compassionately to myself and to my body is a practice. And actually, part of my daily ritual, I literally have a mirror by my altar. I'm about to get real woo-woo, but I am, so it's great. I look myself in the eye every single day and I say, I love who I am. I love my body. I fully and completely accept all of me. Amazon. I'm at my friend's house. My dog just actually doesn't bark. I accept all of me right here, right now, as is. And when I first started this practice, I didn't believe a word I said. Not one word. I did not believe me. I would cry because none of it felt real. And I was in so much pain that I couldn't accept it. And again, it's a practice. It is my daily, and I believe it now. I love her. I love this body. I thank her. Our bodies don't know the difference in our hands and someone else's. So I hold myself. I speak so kindly and tenderly. I touch myself and I say the most loving words. And now I believe them. And the second I forget, I remind myself. And so affirmations are the most loving, just beginning step. Write down the word. When you hear yourself say those limiting words, or my body hates me, or even like we speak physically, like we're taught by the patriarchy that our bodies need to look this certain way. And like there's so much white craziness that we're told this is what's beauty. And when I hear myself say ugly things, sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I'll see myself aging and I'll say something, or I'll be like, oh, that sunspot, or blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, sweet girl. Like, I'm not going to shame myself because I was taught that. That was the air we've breathed our whole lives, right? And now I catch myself and I'm like, what a privilege it is. These are all memories. Every smile line, every sunspot is a memory of being out in Mother Nature. And what a privilege it is to age. And doing this daily practice, and they say it takes 120 days for it to actually set in. And so I do this. Like it is, and when you skip a day, you start over. Mm-hmm. And it's at first it felt like a chore. I didn't want to do it and I didn't believe it. Yeah. And now it's like the air I breathe, right? And it's just the beginning. You just write down, you hear the words you say, and then how can you switch that? If you say, oh, I hate getting old or something like that, you can switch that like, oh, I'm so proud of how strong I am and what a privilege it is to age. Or if you say like, oh, my back hates me, it's so broken. Like this beautiful back that is so strong, that has been holding me and supporting me all these years. Thank you. Thank you. And touch her and thank her. Because our bodies are encasing our souls. Like divinity lives within this, right? Like it's a privilege to be inside of this body that loves you. Our bodies love us. Like that actually makes me teary because I thought it hated me. But my body and your body loves you. And that shifting, it's subtle and it's hard to begin. I'm telling you, I would look myself in the eye and I would just cry because I didn't believe it. And I promise you, I believe it now.
Yeah, I feel it. I really, really feel that. And yeah, I can relate to so much of what you're saying. Like, I think what's coming up for me and listening to you is just that we don't even recognize sometimes that we're saying all of these really harmful, awful, unkind things. Even for me, someone who I feel like I'm pretty aware of stuff that I'm doing and mindful and all of that. I think even just in the last week or two, I've just noticed since I've been alone a lot during the pandemic, and I feel like my body is changing and my weight is changing, and just feel like my hormones are changing. Like just so much is happening and I'm handling stress through my body. It's just
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I had to stop myself last week and be like, oh, you're totally berating yourself in a way that is not at all how you want to be with your body. It's not what you stand for and not what you even believe. But as you're saying, all of these systems are in place for us to naturally, constantly do that.
That's
it's
right.
work for us to say, oh, no, not today. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to retrain. It's okay if I did this for the last 2 weeks or the last 5 years or my whole life. I can stop today.
Yes.
And retrain myself. And when I got quiet with my body, all I heard it say was like, I just want kindness. Yeah. And it was like the tiniest little sweet angel voice inside of me. And I feel like she was about like 7 years old. Yeah. And she was just like, I just want kindness. That's all I want. And almost saying to me, like, it doesn't have to be complicated.
That's right.
You know? And so I think until people do what you're saying and actually stop, and I used to do that with my psoriasis a lot, like when I had spots of psoriasis, as you're saying, we completely disembody from our pain and all the things. I started touching my psoriasis, even though it was like the last thing I wanted to do, and talking to it. But I think until you actually do what you're saying, it's really hard to imagine how much it can transform you.
Yes.
So I love what you're sharing.
And can I just say, that's a form of resistance. That is such a form of rebellion against the freaking patriarchy, because the patriarchy wants to tell us that it's wrong and bad and these beautiful bodies of color are wrong. You are resisting when you honor and love and come back home to your body. This healing journey is an unlearning and a remembering more than anything, because what we've been taught by culture, by the patriarchy, by church, by religion, by our families, it is telling us that we need to fit into this form, we need to look this way, we need to have these able-bodied, we need to do it. It's this crazy, it's craziness, it's insanity is what it is. And because it's been the air that we've been breathing our whole entire lives, we hold on to it and believe it as fact and truth. And our minds can tell us effing lies all day long, but our bodies don't lie to us. Our bodies do not, like you said, when you got quiet, she said, I just want kindness. Our bodies, these beautiful bodies, it's the only thing in this life that we will ever own. It's the only that we come here with and that we leave with, and that we get the honor of getting to be within our whole lives. Like, I don't own anything outside of that. I will never own another human. The things that in my home, like, I get to partake, I get to be a part of, but I don't own those things. They were all just a gift that we get to share. And this body is the only thing I own. And here's what's so beautiful. The more we come home to ourselves and own who we are and have this beautiful, blissful rebellion in these bodies, the more that we are able to know that that's true for every other human. Like, that is anti-racism. Honestly, because then you see, you're not separate. You see that it's that we're all connected. We are all connected, and there's not me and them, and I'm better and they're not. There's no hierarchy in that, because we are all, when we're within our embodied states, you feel the oneness of all things, and you love. Like, the more I fall in love with myself and my body, the more I fall in love with the people around me, and I can see their essence, and I can be a mirror of that. And it's the most loving work that we can ever do in this world. It's not selfish. It's so loving. I heard this poem, and I'll send it to you after. I wish I could quote it, but it said something to the effect, and it's by this beautiful Black woman, and it's something to the effect of, show me a woman, oh God, I want to remember it. Hold on, let me look it up real quick, 2 seconds.
Does that work? I don't know if you can like look it up and then still be there. Oh, we might have lost her. Who knows? But I love everything that Ruthie is saying. Well,
Just kidding. I didn't realize I would
was
totally
like,
go
you
away.
just left me. I don't know what's going on.
I didn't realize that it like actually went away.
I know. It's
Technology
like
is not my spiritual gift.
It's not like FaceTime where you can like pause and like, you know, it's fine. But we're still here.
Listen, technology is not my spiritual gift. I know a lot of other things I'm really great at. Technology, no. But something to the effect of, show me a woman that's not full of themselves, and I'll show you a woman who's so hungry. She's hungry because she's forgotten. And so this work is a remembering. It's a coming home. And it's the most loving, beautiful work we could ever do.
Yeah, it really is. And I love that you say that this is such an act of resistance. First of all, I'm just fangirling that Jillian Mercado is on here because we talk about her.
Oh, my angel!
At Chronicon.
Sister.
I just saw her name, and I am not a person who fangirls, but I just am like,
she is.
Icon.
Listen, I stand for her. She is such a queen. Jillian, I love you, sister.
We literally have featured Jillian in our newsletter, and we just love her. So
she is the queen of queens, so you're nailing it because she's everything.
Yes, I love her. So, but I love what you were saying about how this is such an act of resistance to love our bodies, because I think in what we were talking about before, how we have all of these negative thoughts and we have to actually stop and do something different. It is because of capitalistic, patriarchal, you know, racist systems that are embedded inside of us, that we wake up in the morning and think that we have to look a certain way, and we have to be a certain way, and we have to have a certain amount of money, and we have to have a certain partner, and we have to have a certain, whatever it is, you know. And so the fact that we are dealing with our bodies challenging us often in so many really intense ways, and then we're stopping and we're saying, I see this challenge and I love you and I appreciate you. Oh, Ruthie, it is just, I resonate with all of that you were saying so deeply.
Yeah. Thank you. Me too. I mean, it's what I'm speaking from. This is my, like, this is not something that, you know, this is a lot of hard work, and it's something that I still do daily. Again, you never arrive. This will be my life's work. And we are just inundated all day, every day with lies. Yeah. All day. And the more you do this work, you're able to start recognizing them and calling them out and speaking against them and holding the truth that you know is true for you. Like, you are so, my unlearning has been a remembering of my just inherent value, divinity, worth, because I am breathing. For nothing else but because I am here and I am breathing, I am worthy. Because you are alive and you are on this planet and you are breathing, you are worthy. It doesn't matter what any human outside of you says is true. That is foundational and fundamental. And that's the remembering. That's the coming home to. Because, you know, patriarchy and all that wants to say, if your body isn't able, if you're not, you know, this and that, then you're not worthy. And that is such bullshit. It is utter and complete bullshit.
And the worst part is that there are so many systems in place that we don't even realize that that's what's happening to us, and that's what's being told to us for so long. Like, I get so angry about that part, because I'm like, if I had just known that so much of my suffering was coming, especially as a young kid, as a brown kid who had thick curly hair and had psoriasis all over my body, or got arthritis and couldn't really walk for a really long time. Like, I just wish someone had told us. Yeah. So in this moment, I am grateful that you are telling people, and that we are coming together to let people know that their body is perfect just the way that it is. And it's probably their biggest teacher if they allow it to be. Yes. And I can't believe it's already been like 40 minutes that we've been on this live.
Has it really?
I know. It's been, well, it might have been a little less because I got confused at one point and went on the wrong thing. but it's been a little while. But I really quick, before we have to wrap up and stuff, I want to ask you, I remember when we started, we did the podcast, as I said in the beginning, back in March, and I remember you saying it was like bringing up a lot of past stuff with your health, because you had to stay in your home, in your bed for so long, and that freedom to be able to like experience life after that was really valuable and meaningful to you.
Yes.
And now being in our homes all the time is sort of, it's bringing a lot of that stuff back. So I just wanted to check in with you. I wanted to ask you, like, how are you dealing with your health and also being in your home all the time?
Yes, the beginning was really tough, like having to cancel my book tour. As you know, I worked on this book for 3.5 years, and that was a big loss. We had a huge tour planned. I had been working with my ass off, and I'm I am a extroverted introvert, and I get so much energy, especially in my work, of getting to be across from people and speaking with people, and writing so isolating, right? And so that was like the light at the end of the tunnel. I get to go out and be with humans and not be behind this freaking computer all day. And that was a big loss of my first and probably only book. I don't know that I could ever do that again. But in the same vein, I will tell you now, when we are triggered and when things come up, I live alone. At first it felt very triggering and very isolating. And when things are triggered and things come up, again, it's because it wants to be healed. My girlfriend's alarm is going off, so let me get that. So
coming from?
Yes. So and I think it's actually it comes up because it longs to be healed. And so I was supposed to be gone months. And I actually had space for the first time. And I think, I've been taking this Alchemy of Chaos course, and they talk about, for things to move and shift, you need space, you need stillness. And I don't usually have I am going, traveling all over the world, and all the work that I've ever done isn't happening in COVID. No one's traveling, no one's out speaking, no one's touring. So I've had space. And again, loss and beauty, it's a both and, it's not one or the other. And because there's great loss, there was also great beauty. And because I had this time, this stillness, a lot of healing happened, because a lot came up, and it was painful, and it was rough, and it was hard, and I didn't try to escape it, and I let myself feel it, and I sat with it, and I had a lot of quiet, and I gave myself routine. I gave myself a practice every day, which is not my natural personality. I'm just not wired that way. I'm like, whatever, go with the flow, free spirit. And I gave myself a daily ritual and routine. And I named some of the things that I've been doing every day. And I've been doing nonlinear dance and allowing my body to feel whatever trauma and emotion comes up. And I'm trying to be in the woods alone as much as humanly possible. While camping in the woods, I found a dog that I'd be traveling. I would have never adopted a dog, but we are so in love. And I started cooking. I've never cooked in my life. And I had all these stories of what I can't do and I'm not good at.
Totally.
And they were just stories. I'm not a cook. I don't paint. I can't garden. I have a black thumb. I can't have a dog. I travel. So many limiting stories. And now, I'm gardening. I'm planting. I'm cooking every meal, and I'm eating vegan. And there's been again, that feels like an extension of the coming home,
Yeah.
And that came on the crux of pain, of loss, a lot of loss and hurt and disappointment, a lot of disappointment. And now I can, and this is not toxic positivity, because I let myself feel the pain and the loss. Absolutely. Now I can say thank you. I feel grateful for this time. Yeah. And I've also, in this time, I've had a ton of time to do a lot of anti-racism work that if I were going and doing, it would matter to me. It's mattered to me for a long time, but I've like given myself over to, it feels like the most important thing to me. And I think the healing world, like everything needs to change. Like I go to these spaces and the audience is mostly privileged white people, and I'm like, that's not okay, and I can't be a part of that anymore. So the way I work needs to change, and I've had time to think through how that needs to shift. I've been able to do book clubs on these books that are like so confronting and painful and so foundationally important, like foundationally important, that I just wouldn't have had the space if my world hadn't paused and stopped, you know?
Yeah, no, I really resonate with all of that. I think it's a really incredible time to stop and pause and honor that it's been really painful.
Yes.
A tremendous amount of devastation and
So much
trauma that the world, and especially this country, is facing every single second of every day right now. And I also get what you're saying in terms of like, there is nowhere for us to go. So we have to go within ourselves.
Right.
And within ourselves, I feel the same way. Like I've been cooking different things. I've been learning how to cook meals that I'm not a great cook or anything, but I usually cook for my health, like just to try to keep myself healthy. And I've just been trying new foods, which I also was like, I don't cook that, or you know, I never cook for other people or whatever, just all these limiting beliefs that I have as well. And I've been listening to a lot more books and all of that, and just things that I just didn't make a priority that are actually deeply enriching to me, you know? So I love that. I think that's super helpful. And I have loved talking to you. I could have you on every week because I feel like we have so much that we could talk about.
Oh, thank you, sister. I would love it. I love the space that you've created. I love the work that you're doing. I love the way that you're showing up here. This is so important. And I think that whole thing, like not feeling alone in our pain, is so important. To feel like you too, you know this, and I'm not the only one. That's medicine, and you're creating such a beautiful, safe and brave space for us to come together and know that we're not the only ones, and that this isn't the end, that there's hope. And I'm just so grateful and honored that you've allowed me that time and space to like share here. Thank you, and to learn from you. I'm just so grateful.
Anytime. You are welcome as a part of Chronicon everything all the time. So I'm so honored that you took the time to chat with us, and I just thank you so much. And for those of you that are watching live, we always upload the full IGTV version a week later. So we're going to announce it in our newsletter and let you know when it's live next week, and you'll be able to watch this anytime that you want. So awesome. Thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. Love you, sister.
So much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.